Hey, what's up, fam? Welcome back to the King's Vibe podcast. For the people that's been following, it's been a hot minute since we released that podcast and released the content because we've been working on something different, which I really want to unveil today, right? So you definitely lucky watching it today. So what we've been doing over the last few weeks, really the last few months, is we started a trucking company, trucking business. Wanted to understand what the trucking industry was all about because that was really the goal when we started, and I want to make sure everybody understands that, right? So, anyway, so the purpose of this of today's video is to make sure people understand what we've been doing over the few weeks, over the few months, and definitely to kind of lay down some of the things that you need to go through if you wanted to start a trucking company. Now, we were super new to this trucking thing, right? It's a whole new industry. So for people that don't know, the trucking industry is about a $800 billion industry, right? That the government supports also. We'll make sure people understand this. Now, for people that want to get into it later, we're going to talk about some of the things, but today's video is mainly based on how to start up a trucking business. That's really all we're going to talk about. We're not going to talk about too many details as far as what goes into all these other steps. Now, today, the steps we're going to talk about is only four of them, right? Only four. Four main steps in starting a trucking business. And in our subsequent videos, which you're going to see, we're going to talk about all the different things that go into all these different steps, right? Because, yes, we're going to summarize all these steps and make sure people understand what kind of goes into these things. However, every step is pretty compact and it kind of has different things and different people you have to deal with, especially regulations and FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Anyway, so let's kick it off. All right. To start off a trucking business, just like any other business, the first thing you want to do, step one, is you want to start off your LLC or your business if you're not interested in LLC and you want to get your EIN. So now that's double pack, right? Okay. So the first thing you want to do is start off your business and then get your EIN, which kind of goes hand in hand, right? So to start off your business, you have to register your business through your state, right? Whether you want to do an LLC, an S corp, a C corp, all these other different businesses that's out there, or these are the different business ownerships that's out there. Now, for us, the King Vibes LLC, we operate on an LLC, obviously, because that is the best that we went with so far. Now, we could talk about it in different videos. Like I said, we could talk about all the different business entities that's out there, and you could really see what's good for you. But for us as a business, LLC was the way to go, and that's what we actually started doing. Now, so we got an LLC. And fun fact, we started LLC back in Florida, right? Obviously, after a few months operating in Florida, we moved to California, right? Now, with how the business formation goes, sometimes when you move from one state to the next state, you may have to re-register, and you have to register as different entities, whatever the case might come. And I don't want to confuse people. That's why I don't want to get into the details. But we had to register as a different business in California. So what we did was we started a new business in California. We closed the one that was in Florida. All right. Again, we're going to talk about the details later. So we started a whole new business in California because we're new in California. So start a business as an LLC, so the King Vibes LLC, and that's what we did. All right. And the next thing after that was we got our EIN. Entity identification number, I believe is what it is. So basically, your EIN is the same thing as your social security number, right? In this case, your EIN is for just the business, right? So you give your business a social security going through the IRS, right? Because you're gonna need it for a lot of different things, which we're gonna talk about later in this video or in other videos. But you're gonna need your EIN. It's just like a person existing in the United States without a social security. Think about that, right? That's almost impossible, right? Even though it happens. Anyway, so yeah. So that's your first step, creating your LLC or your different business entity types, which is, your S corp, your C corp, LLC, all these other things that people want to get into. But for us, we did an LLC. And then the second thing with the first step is to create your EIN, right? Okay, because we had already talked about get into the trucking industry, the second step after we got our LLC and our EIN was to get our DOT number and our MC number. So your DOT number is your Department of Transportation number, which really identifies you as a company within the Department of Transportation. Your MC number is your motor carrier number, which identifies you as an interstate organization within the federal government, right? So think about it. Now, if you don't want to operate interstate, you only want to operate within your state, then you don't need the MC number. You're going to need a statewide regulated number if your state supports it. So I'm gonna put this in perspective, right? So I'm in California. California has all these other regulations as far as also an MCP, which is your motor carrier permit. So if you don't want to operate in the state of California, right, you can go DOT or MC. However, though, if you want to operate within the state of California, you would have to get what we call a CA number, which is California permit, to perform trucking in the state of California. So if you only want to work in California, you have to get a CA number, which for us, we do have an MC number, and we also have a California number. What that means is we can work interstate within states or intrastate within that same state, right? Because we didn't want to be bounded by the different rules and stuff that kind of go around. So we got all of it, so we can operate wherever, right? The bigger picture with that is, if my driver or one of my drivers got into the state of California, and wanted to pick up a load in California and deliver in California, we're still registered with our CA number to be able to pick up and deliver within the state of California. That's what that means, right? Okay, anyway. So that's the second step. So we already talked about this first step. We'll talk about the second step, which is getting your MC and your DOT number. And we're going to talk about in details what these things mean, right? Because it really takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Anyway, get your DOT number, get your MC number, and we'll go from there. Anyway, so once you apply for your DOT number, which kind of comes with your MC hand in hand kind of thing, right? So next thing you want to do is you want to get, once your DOT number and MC number is in the system with FMCSA, again, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So once your application gets in a system, for them to be able to approve you, you would have to, and I'm gonna look at my phone just so I don't miss anything. But anyway, for them to be able to approve you, you have to have what we call a buck 3. People say BOC 3, buck 3. I don't even know what it really stands for. But anyway, buck 3 or BOC 3. So what a buck 3 means is you have a set of people that's identified on the federal government level that's going to intervene for your business if anything legal happens, right? So my buck 3 is filed, which means that if anything happens legal, means and my attorney cannot handle it, I can reach out to the buck 3 office and be like, hey, what's going on? Can you guys help me out, right? Because I paid. But you do have to pay for your buck 3. Now, the thing is, your buck 3 and your attorney, if you choose to have one, are two different things. Your buck 3 is federal regulated. Your attorney is set up by you, right? Because you don't have to have an attorney if you don't need one. But your buck 3 is mandatory if you need to set up your DOT number. To become a legit, you have to set up a buck 3. Now, a lot of companies don't even know who they're set up with as far as buck 3 goes, because you have to have it, and there's so many different companies out there that's providing services that you can line up with and be set up with for buck 3. Now the catch is this: You need your buck 3 for your authority to go active. We'll talk about it later. I don't want to confuse nobody, but we will talk about it later. But you do need your buck 3 for your authority to go active. All right, next thing you want to do is you want to register your UCR, Unified Carrier Regulation, I believe is what that means, right? So UCR. Now, ask me as a business owner, does UCR really means anything? Not really. Not really. It doesn't make a whole lot, right? Anyway, but you do need that as part of regulation for your authority to go active. So you need your UCR. Set that up. Now, your UCR, Unified Carrier Regulation, is set up biannually, which means that you do it every 2 years. Now, what a lot of people do, and again, we're going to get into it in details when we actually tackle UCR. But what a lot of people do is they do it every year, even though all you need to do is do it 2 years. And the reason for that is if you come across a really bad or busy year, right, where you have a lot of trucks out, or you don't have a lot of trucks out, right, because of all these other things that affect the industry, and you forget to file your UCR because it's due biannually, the one you did the previous year should be able to cover that year where you are in distress, if that makes sense, right? Now, what you can also do is you can file your UCR every year if you want, right? All you're doing is basically prorating your year, on. You don't have to do it until every 2 years, but you could do it every year if you want and just renew it. But UCR is just making sure that you are still in business as a business entity every year or every 2 years legally, right? Now, that closes, well, no, I lied. That doesn't close your step 2. So your step 3, getting your buck 3, your UCR. The last thing with step 3 is getting your insurance. Now, this is a big problem for a lot of people, especially the new carriers, right? You have to have an insurance. For your authority to go active, you have to have an insurance before it can go active. Does it make sense? Not really. So basically, you have to have an authority on your business or your truck if you already have a truck bought up before your authority goes active. So you're going to have a few days in advance where you have to pay insurance. Insurance is not cheap. I'm going to put it out right now. Insurance for a truck company is not cheap. Not at all, right? Now, you're going to have an insurance on a trucking business or trucking truck even before you go active. And mind you, before you go active, you cannot operate with that authority. Why do I put it that way? Now, you could run under somebody's authority, which is a whole different topic we will talk about later. But for you to run under your authority, you have to have your authority that's already approved, which means your buck 3, your UCR, your insurance, and all these things are already in place and already approved within about 21 business days, right? That could change. We'll talk about it later. But get your insurance, get the minimal insurance that you need to put your authority in active. That's the third step. So we already talked about your buck 3. We'll talk about your UCR, and we'll talk about your insurance, right? And again, like I said, in our subsequent videos, we're going to talk about all these different steps as far as how to really maximize your almost non-existent capital because for a new business, you're not supposed to have a lot of money, right? Because you're a new business, you just started. You're going off of raw capital, right? Anyway, so the fourth step is to buy your truck after or even before your authority goes active. Now, mind you, you already got insurance on something you don't even own. So what's the stress in buying the truck? You can buy a truck whenever you want. You already got insurance anyway. It doesn't even matter. Just put the truck on that insurance And then the last thing we do to have to look up for loads. So again, set up your business. That's the first thing. Whatever business entity you want to go with, LLC, S corp, C corp, all these other things, including sole proprietorship, right? If you want to do it by yourself. Second thing you want to do is you want to apply for your DOT and your MC number. It takes about 21 business days to go active. I've seen people that went active earlier than that. I've seen people that went active a whole lot later than that because different things kind of play into that. So set up your DOT and your MC number. The next thing you want to do is you want to set up your Buck 3 and the UCR number. Buck 3 is just to make sure you have some type of coverage when it comes on the federal level. Your UCR, Unified Carrier Registration Number, is to make sure that you can operate all along United States with no problems. That's a UCR. Now, to ask me personally, your Buck 3 and the UCR don't make any sense. However, though, these are regulations you have to abide by before your authority can go active. So you have to do it. All right. Last thing with that step 3 is to get your insurance. Get the cheapest insurance you can get to get your authority active, i.e., all you need is $750,000 on liability. That's all you need. Everything else that the YouTubes and the Facebooks and all these other groups talk about is all lies, right? Take it from me because I actually went through it. But you do need your Buck 3 and the UCR and your insurance, about $750,000 in liability for your authority to go active. And the last thing with the process is to get your own truck and get some loads, which to give something away to get your loads, you may or may not have to sign up with load boards, right? Which is one different thing we'll have to talk about. Now, a lot of these things, and I keep saying we have to talk about later, is because as a new company, all these things are really frustrating. And I'm not going to lie, right? They're really frustrating, and you have to get into the weeds of all these other things. Now, thanks to YouTube and thanks to people like the King Vibes LLC podcast, we're going to talk about all of these things so you as a new business or as a new company would know how to deal with all these other things. But think about it this way. You're going to go through a lot of stress, right? However, you're going to make a lot of money to where you will not be able to remember all these stress that you're going through. I promise you, right? Because we've got into so many different businesses. However, the trucking business has some good prospects. $800 billion industry is what you're about to get into. Think about it. How much of that $800 billion you're going to make? Now, as all these budgeting goes every year, it might even increase. Right? The government might say, well, okay, we're going to put more money into trucking industry. And if it goes up, how much of that money are you going to make as a new company? Right? There's so many different distractions that come with opening up your business and even getting into the trucking industry. However, though, you as a person, as a business owner, decide a lot of these things. We're going to leave it just as that, right? But anyway, thank you very much for sticking with us and spending time with us today. Today we've talked about trying to start a business company, a business or a company, i.e. a trucking business, because that's what we've done in the last few weeks and few months, and that's what we've been offline. But if this is something you are interested in, make sure you share, you like, you comment, put some comment in there. Let us know how you think about this video. We're definitely going to drop more videos as we go. We have done it for a few months. So we definitely, our authority has gone a few months and we are legit at this point, and we can actually